Webcast for Tuesday, August 18th. I'm South Ops meteorologist Jonathan O'Brien. We continue to see some high clouds this morning as upper-level moisture from a distant cutoff low continues to drift into the region. A shallow marine layer also continues to bring some low clouds and fog, mainly across portions of the central coast. The patchy high cloudiness will likely continue through the day and filter the sunshine at times, but overall a very typical summer day is ahead. Here's a look at the maximum humidity values since midnight last night. We generally saw continued drying trends last night as the air mass continues to dry out after the recent cooler and more humid pattern. We still didn't see much in the way of poor recoveries, and low elevations continue to see good recoveries, but recoveries have dropped more into the fair range across many mid and higher elevations, and we should expect some additional drying trends to continue over the next couple of nights. The big picture weather pattern remains the same as strengthening high pressure over the desert southwest continues gaining the upper hand on offshore troughing influences. This general pattern will remain in place into early next week, with the ridge dominating overall, but a little more troughing influence by early next week as the ridge nudges eastward and allows the trough to push a little closer and strengthen our onshore flow. Temperatures will continue their gradual rise today. Here's a look at the forecast highs. Most of the valleys will make it well into the 90s, with near 100 in the warmest spots, and the desert areas will really be on the hot side as the lack of monsoon moisture today will allow for efficient heating in those areas. And here are the forecast highs for Wednesday. We'll see Wednesday and Thursday be the warmest days across the region. Not quite extreme heat conditions, but definitely on the very warm side, even for this time of year. But from there, we'll see things level out or gradually backslide through the end of this week, and by this weekend and early next week, a gradual cooling and moistening trend is likely, especially west of the coastal slopes as trough nudges closer and the marine layer deepens. The changes won't be too drastic and it'll remain seasonably warm, but valley highs will fall back into the upper 80s and 90s. Sunday's forecast highs are shown here. We're also seeing humidity falling back into more typical territory. Minimums will drop into the range of about 12 to 25% in most areas away from the coast from today through the rest of this week. We'll also start to see the reemergence of thermal belts and more in the way of fair to poor recoveries, though not as expansive as what we saw earlier this month. And humidity will likely trend gradually upwards once again by early next week as we start to cool off a little. Winds will remain on the light side for the next several days, with local and terrain effects dominating. No significant wind issues are expected, and the general flow will remain weakly onshore. Some increase in onshore breeziness is likely early next week with the modest cooling trend, but it does not look like anything major. With a south to southwest flow aloft, we're not expecting to see any shower or thunderstorm activity over the next couple of days. But as high pressure builds northward and winds aloft become a little more south to southeast, we will see some monsoonal influences returning. It continues to look as though showers and thunderstorms will return to the mountains and deserts of Southern California, east and south of I-15 from Thursday through early next week. Some activity will also likely extend into the Sierra starting Friday. Currently, these look like pretty run-of-the-mill monsoonal wet thunderstorms, which will favor the high mountains and deserts and not be a significant fire weather issue. However, given that the threat is still a few days out, it's still a potential worth watching since there is still some uncertainty in the forecast. Our fire danger indices are gradually recovering from the cooler and wetter pattern we saw last week. Dead fuel moistures, shown here, will be on gradual falling trends for the next few days before leveling out later this week. ERC values will climb, though not to the levels that we saw earlier this month. Most low to mid-elevation live fuel types are also at or approaching critical levels, with live fuel moisture values of 55 to 75% common across much of the region. So overall, we'll be seeing conditions trending towards typical mid to late August values, which certainly brings some inherent risk for fire activity given the time of year. In terms of large fire potential, we'll keep it in the moderate category today, but higher than we've been the past several days and getting closer to normal for this time of year. And over the next few days, expect fire potential to continue gradually increasing to seasonably elevated levels with the warming and drying trend. Burn periods will lengthen, and fuel receptivity will increase, with potential for significant growth on any well-aligned starts. However, the lack of extreme heat, dryness, or significant wind will keep us well short of any critical or high-risk thresholds. That's it for today's webcast. Thanks for joining us. Next one will be on Wednesday, August 19th.